Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I am the head coach at Grace Financial Coaching. That stands for Guidance, Resources, Accountability, Communication, and Evaluation. I am very excited to welcome our guest today. It is my friend, Matt Wally. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Oh, absolutely awesome. How about you?
Good, good. So Matt is the founder of Wally Coaching Services, and I can't wait to hear about the dumbest thing he's ever done with money. So before we get into that, Matt, tell us a little bit about your financial coaching practice.
All right. Well, I started it in March of 2020. And fun fact about that, as soon as I completed Dave Ramsey's financial coach master training, the week after that is when the lockdown hit and we were all kind of cloistered in our own world. So yeah, that was when all of those lessons really I really had to take to heart. And so, but at the same time, yeah, I've been doing this ever since March of 2020, and I reach out to Christians, churches, military folks. Those are and especially young married people, kind of in my age bracket right now, or my phase of life, young married people with young kids, helping them be able to navigate personal finance now that they've just moved on from their parents and starting to navigate life on their own.
Absolutely. So, Matt, you told me something before we went live that I did not know about you. You were in the military. Give us a little bit of background on that.
Sure. Well, it was around November of 2008. My dad had been my dad over the last, for like the last 4 years prior to that, had been through, I think, two different jobs. And so I was basically at that time paying my own way through college. At that point, I'd been in since 2003. And so that's when I left for the Army Reserve and was in for about 9 years from November of '08 to 17.
Gotcha, gotcha. What do you think? How do you think that helps you? How do you think that experience in the military, possibly observing other people not utilizing their money that well, how do you think that influenced your decision to actually go through Dave Ramsey's training and become a coach?
Well, a big thing is just, seeing how financial readiness was crippling a lot of other soldiers, and, especially, before going on deployment. I just knew I didn't want that to necessarily be me, and just, hearing all the struggles that people do have. But then also you have those other reserve soldiers that are kind of doing the dumb things with money, which I will definitely be talking to you about, in a little bit. Uh, that was kind of another example to me of what I don't want to do. So so kind of those three things combined was what got me going on this journey.
Yeah, I think that puts you in a very specific and advantageous position to
Yep.
coach differently. Not necessarily just military people, right? It's because I
Right.
unfortunately, my husband's active duty, but I unfortunately feel
Hmm.
like the military can kind of be a microcosm of, or a more
Yep.
magnified example of the problems and the things that people everywhere do with money.
Absolutely.
And it's just
Absolutely.
shrunken down into this little, what is it? 1% of the country of the population is in the military or whatever, something
Yeah.
like that.
Right
And
now.
so it's like this science experiment, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but I think they've been getting some very bad advice. And so not only are they young and they get this freedom for the first time, and so they feel like, oh, I've got this bonus money. Let me go out and get a car. But it's like they're being told to do some things to like build their credit. And you got to have a credit score if you want to get a car, and then keep building it so that you can get a house. And then they don't understand how to handle or manage all those different things, and
Right.
that's what leads to trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now tell us about you thought for a period of time you were going to become a chaplain. So tell us about your involvement in your church.
Well, I was born and raised in a Christian home, and I've absolutely, that was probably one thing. I never really felt calling to be a pastor, because I was a musician growing up. That was my passion, was to be like a music director in a church.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Kind of plugging into that. Oh, I love it. That's probably the one area where I can never, is always a thrill for me to sing, is in church. Singing in church never ceases to be a thrill for me. I absolutely love it. And so that's kind of what I was shooting for. And so as I was plugging into the military, I got a little bit outside my comfort zone, and it was a little bit of a, it was a little bit of a shell shock when I got into basic training and was kind of learning about people different from myself. But the more I kind of, got outside myself and got to know these people and actually, listen to them, I found out how much like them I was like. And so I wanted to have an impact on these people. And I loved what chaplains were doing and getting to know them and talking with them a little bit. And so I'm like, maybe this is something I can do. And so I would talk to chaplains and see how I could, possibly direct commission or something like that. This was around, I think, 2010, 2011. And I remember I was dating a girl at the time who later would become my wife. And as I was talking to her and sharing this, this goal that I had with her, it wasn't the fact that she didn't like the fact that I wanted to do it, but her family upbringing her family background was she'd moved around a lot. I mean, to the point where when she was 12 years old, she had already moved 18 times. And after she told me that, that was kind of like my wake up moment. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't this probably is not going to be the best option for us if we're going to be serious about this relationship. So, yeah, that was kind of a dream that I kind of had to, put to bed. But again, it opened up doors for this one, and so I can't say it was a bad move.
Right, absolutely. And that just opens up a whole other can of worms where we could start talking about, unfortunately, Dave Ramsey can be guilty of this too when he talks to military families on the radio, which is, oh, you're going to get reimbursed for that move. But you never truly, really ever get completely reimbursed for that PCS move or whatever the circumstances are. So, yeah, you're getting mileage and yeah, you're getting your household goods moved for you, and then you go through the whole trauma of, I was just talking to some girl locally and they have no kitchen glasses, like all of their,
Wow.
it's gone, like just gone. So like every coffee cup, every glass, she's got like 2 kids running out. She has nothing to, and it's just, I know it sounds silly, but it's just that box is never coming back. And now she needs to go out and buy new ones, and so is it not, you're just never completely fully reimbursed. And that also, causes issues with spending and that budgeting and things like that with the military.
Absolutely.
So Matt, I created this show to help people realize that while we all make financial mistakes, which we've already alluded to some of ours, we can also learn from the experience of others. So what is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
Well, and this is why I talk about this all the time on my videos that I post on my Facebook page. And that is, I got a degree that was not marketable. I was one of those young kids that I thought that, music was going to be my life. And so I studied it in college without really any plan, just thinking that, oh, someone will like me, because after all, every musician is good. There's always, hope for every musician, or there's always a job out there. Well, yeah, which may be true, but it's only if you make them money, is if they like you. And again, this is me being young and dumb, but and my dad constantly, when I was in college, was telling me, Matt, do you have a plan for this? Do you have a plan for this? Matt, you might do better if you go this route, because this is something that people are knocking on doors asking for this over here. Are you sure? And I'm like, no, Dad, I love music. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. Because again, after all, I'm in college. I'm smart. And so that was about, all in all, 11 years of my life that I poured into that and got absolutely not a huge return on investment. Now, I will say this, I use my skill set in church every week when I go and minister in my church. And so I'm thankful that I can use it there. But from a financial standpoint, just not really, their doors really didn't open up there. And so, long story short, when I was in graduate school, because I even did the stupider thing and decided to get a master's in the dumb thing. So I was working on campus to pay for grad school while drawing what was it? what is that military thing? There's the Nobi and the
Like the GI Bill?
Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of it offhand, but yeah, I was drawing GI Bill and even the kicker bonus. And even after all that, I was still taking out student loans, not just for graduate, but for undergraduate education. So between my wife and I, we had about 50,000 in student loans. And then and so after flunking out of graduate school and having to learn from the school of hard knocks, I had to find a job. And so I worked jobs that I absolutely hated for the first 3 years of my life. I worked in a warehouse. I was working in a fast food restaurant, like unskilled labor type stuff. Oh, and it was miserable. But, we had gone through Financial Peace University. We were learning we were learning the baby steps, and we both looked at each other like, if this is gonna be our lives, we're gonna have to go all in on this. And so, and the big reason that I wanted to go through with this was, other conversations that my wife and I had while we were dating, is she was talking about another thing where her parents at one time, and I'm not trying to, and I don't want to shame her parents by saying this because I love them both very much, but at one point in their life, they had to file bankruptcy because of their problems with money. And when she told me that, that was my scared moment. And so it was just like, I don't care what I have to do. I just don't want to end up there. And so I was willing to work that job, even though I would come home just absolutely frustrated that my boss was chewing me out again. And so, yeah, it was an endurance, but again, I was we were focused, we were intense, and we were just determined that we were not going to let these things hang around like a pet, as Dave says.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. For those who've not heard Dave say that, he says student loans that you have so long you think they're a pet. So,
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
how long did
absolutely.
it take you to evict the student loans, Matt?
3 years, and
Okay,
and
nice.
that was only making $40,000 a year.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. That is really inspirational for people who are I've got some clients who have double that in student loans, but they're also
Mm.
making double 40,000 or
Yep.
maybe even more. So it's not impossible, right?
No,
It's a matter
absolutely
of,
not.
yeah. So if you could go back and change your decision,
Hmm.
where would you have kind of drawn that line? Would it have been back in undergrad? Would you not, would you still have done undergrad, or would you just not have done graduate school? Where would you have made that? Where would you have said, okay, this isn't going to work?
Well, I'm trying to think back to 2003. I probably still would have gone to college, but I probably would have waited. I think I rushed into it a little bit too fast. I probably would have worked a little bit, got a little bit more life experience, found out what I wanted to do first instead of just following this passion. And thankfully, I remember Mike Rowe did a Prager University video, and I so thankful that he said this, talking about stop following your passion and really start looking out and seeing opportunity. And
Yes.
you can't really see opportunity unless you get out into the world and start plugging in and getting active. So that's what I would have done first, is get out and get working and get active first and learning life. And then, now that I've discovered I love personal finance, I probably would have like studied something more along the line of financial management or business or counseling or something along that line that would have actually, you know, uh, directed me toward my career goals.
Yeah, I think for whatever I mean, love micro, love micro. My
Yep.
husband's working through one of his books right now. Oh my gosh, he's so
Yep.
great. The I feel like the Europeans, it's much more normalized over there for the kids
Yes.
to take a year or
Absolutely.
two off.
Yep.
Because I was 17 when I got to college. I didn't turn 18 for like the first 2 months. Like I was
Wow.
like the youngest
Whew.
person there. And I changed my major so late that I ended up having to do extra credits both semesters of my senior year. And it was
Man.
miserable. But you know what? I'm glad I
Yep.
changed it at the end of junior year and that I didn't just stick with what I thought I wanted to do when I was 17 and a freshman.
Yep.
At least at
Hmm.
20, junior year, I felt like I had a little bit more like, okay, I really don't want to do that, which is what I thought I wanted to do 3
Yeah,
years ago. I'll
absolutely.
do this. So yeah, did the last year and a half of college absolutely stink? Yeah, it did. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't like the exciting, senioritis type thing that some people get to do before
Oh,
going
yeah.
into the real world. But yeah, I think we put way too much pressure on 17 and 18-year-olds
Absolutely.
to say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm an adult. I know exactly what I want to do with my life. I mean, there are
Yeah.
50-year-olds who don't know what they want to do with their lives when they grow up. And
And
you
I'll
may not necessarily want to get into what your passion is. It
right.
might not be the right move for you.
And I'll even echo what Charlie Kirk says, and I even posted this on my page, because he asked, high school seniors 2 questions. Number 1, does the career field that you are interested in, does it require a college degree?
Right.
Does it require that? And number 2, if it does, do you necessarily need to go to college right away? Maybe again, like I was saying earlier, maybe you want to get out and learn, how your paycheck works, how, those deductions from your paychecks, what do those mean? And all those different things. Learn about life and those things first. Then when you're ready, you can go ahead and plug into your career a little bit more. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. I think one of the biggest shocks for young people is the amount that comes out in taxes. I
yep,
have a younger, we'll just call them a friend, and they went and got their first paid, on the books job.
yep,
And the fully on the books job, previous jobs had, involved tips and things like that.
oh yeah, yeah,
And I warned them that they were going to be pretty disappointed when they saw
hmm
what was actually getting deposited. And
oh
sure
yeah,
enough, they actually left and went back to that field
hmm
where it's less of a taxable paycheck, but more of a
yep,
tip industry.
yep. And now you
So you
learn
know
why
what?
you,
Maybe that'll be your life for the first 10 years of your career,
yeah,
and you can get into something else, or you can grow into it, or whatever it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because you didn't go into a job where they're taking 35% of your money in taxes right off the bat doesn't mean
yeah,
that you're a bad
absolutely.
person.
No, no. And I think one thing these young people have to realize is it's not a forever thing. It's not like, yeah, I worked jobs that I hated, now I'm transitioning to work that I love now. But it's not that it's a forever thing. It's just
Yeah.
temporary for a period of time so that you can put yourself in until you put yourself in position to where now you're doing what you love and you can reap the rewards and benefits from that.
Oh, that's so great, Matt. I want to leave it right there because that is so true. That's perfect. It's just perfect. I hope that
Yep.
many young people listen to this particular video because this was a real, this should be a big
No,
wake up call for people in high
absolutely.
school and even who are already in college and could still change their trajectory at this point.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's been great having you. I want everybody to make sure they join me again next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. And if you missed the live video today or any of our other live videos, make sure to check out the Grace Financial Coaching YouTube page and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.